What is up, everyone? My name is Chris Fanzon. You are listening to the Hidden Doors podcast. Today, we're talking about how to talk to people that you disagree with. How do you do it? And don't forget, at the end of this video, at the end of this podcast, we do a word of the day. So stay to the end because you want to build your vocabulary, get that word of the day in, sprinkle that into your conversations, and continue to improve. Don't leave early so you can get that word of the day in. And if you do enjoy this podcast, give me a thumbs up on this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date on more videos like this. I hope you enjoy. Thank you for listening. Okay, so we're talking about how do you have a conversation? How do you talk to people that you disagree with? How do you do it? In this day and age, I don't know about other countries, but in the United States, we seem to have a very tough time with this. And the reason I want to do this podcast is because at the current moment in our climate, our political climate, as soon as politics gets involved in a topic, it seems like people dig their heels in and they can't even have a conversation. It's like you might be close to someone, but as soon as you bring up this one topic, it might even have nothing to do with politics, but somehow politics got sprinkled into it. As soon as you bring up this one topic, it just seems like a no-fly zone. People get visibly anxious, visibly irritated. You get irritated, and then it's like a bloodbath. You're all trying to convince each other they're wrong, and you're trying to convince each other that you're right. It's a weird thing, and I don't know if other countries are dealing with this, but we certainly are. And to me, it's leading to more stress for people. It's leading to you get visibly upset about these things, and it's not good for your mental health. And it could be family, could be friends, could be close people in your life that you now stop talking to because you have these contentious arguments where you guys get nowhere and then you don't like each other anymore. That's not a good way to have conversations with people. So this podcast is about what is going on, how do we talk to people that we disagree with in an amicable way, and keep the friendship, keep the love and support for each other, even though you guys disagree. And we have to learn how to do this. Otherwise, we're not going to have a civilized country or world. We have to learn how to do this. So, taking a step back here, here is a microcosm of the world, I believe, is a courtroom. The microcosm of the world is a courtroom. Have you ever seen a courtroom, or have you ever seen a live case being delivered in a courtroom? You got a judge, the defense attorney, and then you got the state attorney. They're all in the room. The state, there's probably a better word for the state attorney, district attorney, who knows? The state's attorney is trying to argue against the person being charged, right? They're a bad person. They have a bad record. They did this. Here's all the evidence. And then the defense side is going the opposite. This person is good. They haven't having any trouble. There's no evidence. All the evidence is not stacking up to actually this person committing the crime. Whatever. I think you guys understand what happens in a courtroom. But the reason I say that it's a microcosm of this world we're in right now is because regardless of who thinks they're right or wrong. Whether the defense attorney actually thinks this person is guilty or not, or whether the district or state attorney actually thinks they're right or wrong, they both seem to have extremely great arguments. If you listen to both sides and you were just trying to hear them out, you might be like, oh, that person is speaking as if they really believe what they're saying is true. And they have to do that because they're getting paid. That's how they get paid. It's a weird environment. That's how they're incentivized. Of course, as a defense attorney, as any attorney, you can't come in, and if you have a little bit of doubt in your head, if you show that to the other side, if you show that to the jury, then they're going to see that in an instant, and then you'll be a bad attorney because you're not helping your side get what they want, and they're paying you for that. So it's a weird environment where people, even if they know they're wrong, they're digging in. They're digging in regardless of what they say, of what the other side says, even if it makes sense. Even if what the other side says is like, wow, that's so clear. Of course, it makes complete sense. The other side, really, unless they know they're in a corner and everyone else sees it, but if that's not the case, they are digging in on their side and they are arguing the opposite. They have to. They're incentivized to. Now, this is a courtroom. There's a lot of good things about this system, and there's a lot of bad things probably too, but there's probably more good than bad. And who knows? I'm not a political person. I don't know the court system that well. I'm just trying to give you an analogy of what I see as is what's going on in this world. And the courtroom is one thing, but now when that happens outside of the courtroom into regular conversations that people have with each other, that is when things just start breaking down as far as communication from my perspective. And this is what I'm getting to when you say, how do you talk to people? You don't talk. I don't think you should have conversations like they do in like the courtroom, where even if you know you're wrong, you're digging in. You are digging in, and the purpose of in that room is to convince the other person they're wrong and that you're right. If you start off a conversation with the intent like that, it is not going to go well, especially if both parties, one side is digging in, the other side's digging in. Both sides say, I'm here to have this conversation and convince you that you're wrong and I'm right, no matter what you say. To me, that's a foreign way to. I don't understand it. Growing up, I always understood that if I'm talking to someone and I'm saying my side of things, I would always assume that if someone else had a different thought, different opinion, different way of seeing something that actually made more sense than what I had in my head, I would assume that I would right there say, okay, yeah, you know what? That makes sense. And I might even change my tune. I might change my thinking. I might say, okay. I might go on your side now. I might change because what you just said makes a lot of sense. But for some reason, that's almost taboo. It's like, don't do that. Like, you have to dig in. And this is where when politics creeps into a conversation and creeps into a topic, it's like, regardless if you think you're right or wrong, it doesn't matter. Your side has to be right. So you have to dig in. And you cannot admit that you're wrong. You cannot say to the other side, you know what, you might be right. That is why I hate it when politics gets into any conversation, because it ruins it. People can't now. Maybe there's places where there's people that can do this, and I'm sure there is. I'm sure that this just gets hyped up in the news and other areas where it's beneficial for, like, news, right? Where it's beneficial for you to see these crazy people arguing. But from my perspective, even with people I know, as soon as you get the politics involved, it's the digging in, and it's harder to have a conversation where you could admit that you're wrong and the other person is right. Or maybe you don't admit you're wrong, but you admit the other person has a good idea and that's actually worth hearing. And you didn't think about that before. Oh, I didn't. That's interesting. It's a good point of view. Instead of, no, you're wrong. You have to hear my side. So, how do you talk to people in this polarized environment where you actually still share the support and love and friendship of people and not ruin close relationships you've had and talk to people about things? You do it like I read this book, Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, and he went to, I think, somewhere in Africa. I don't know exactly where, but he went there and he ended up being involved in a conversation, and two people were talking. Matthew McConaughey thought they were arguing, and he picked one person's side and said, hey, I actually think X, Y, and Z. Then they both looked at him and said, hey, no, it's not about who's right or wrong. It's about understanding the other person. And that right there is what we need to do when we talk to people. Every side, I don't care where you fall in any side of any topic, it doesn't matter. If everyone today started to say, look, this is not a courtroom, I'm not digging in my heels, regardless, because I just want to be right and I don't want to be wrong. And instead, I'm coming to you as a person who understands everyone thinks differently. Everyone has a different thought. And instead of saying, there's no way that you can be right because I'm right and you're wrong, and I'm going to show you that I'm right by screaming down your throat. Maybe you're not screaming, but you're just talking over people and you're not listening. And if you're doing that, then expect the same result. You're going to have a poor conversation with someone who also is going to dig in. But if we all say, no, we're going to actually understand each other and amicably, when I say amicably, friendly conversation, just a conversation. You're not, now, you're not there to convince this person that you're right and they're wrong. You're there to understand their side and share your thoughts. You're When you think about it like that and that's your intent, it's a right, just right there. I don't need to tell you exactly what to say, how to say it. As soon as you change it from trying to convince you you're right, I'm wrong, to, you know what, I don't know who the hell is right or wrong, what is your thinking behind it? That could be a valuable way to think about things. Here's my side of things, let me see what you think. As soon as you have that, then two people can now actually talk to each other without feeling like they're in a never ending debate that they have to dig their heels in. And so th- that is what it's all about. It's understanding the other side. And then the biggest thing here, this is going to be hard for some people. The biggest thing is either you listen just as much as you're talking, or you listen more than you're talking. And when I say listen, not like listening where you're ready to fire off more comments, so you're just being quiet. As soon as the other person, as soon as you hear no more voices, you go fire off. That's not listening. Listening is actually hearing the other person. What do they have to say? And trying to internalize it. Could you think that way? If you stop thinking your way, could that make sense to you? If it does, then why couldn't you adopt that way of thinking? If what you're hearing makes sense, then be open to thinking differently. If you're not open to thinking differently, then what are you doing? Then the sole purpose of what you're doing, again, is you're going to the courtroom. You're in your own version of a courtroom that, regardless of what that person says, you're not going to say, oh yeah, you might be right, I could be wrong. As soon as you're so tied to your thoughts that you're not willing to think differently, that is when your conversations are going to continue to be polarized and not healthy, and dysfunctional. And that's it. So what I would say is there's a couple things. One is be open. One is be open to thinking differently. Two, listen as much as you talk or more than you talk. And when you're listening, it's not just listening isn't just closing your mouth and waiting to open it again. It's internalizing what that person is saying. And could you think that way? Does it make sense? Internalize it. Three is stop living in a bubble, meaning every side has this. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be political or non-political, but as soon as you have a side, it's like a tribal. As soon as you have your tribe and you only hear things from that one side, you start to only think that that's true. And as soon as you hear a different perspective, it's like, whoa, you're taken back. It's because you're only hearing for you're just in an echo chamber. So I don't like watching cable news of any sort. It is, if you watch cable news every day, you're getting little by little manipulated by stupid people. Stupid people who are literally creating a manipulation machine. It's a manipulation machine. That's what news is. And it is not healthy for the brain. So I would stop being in echo chambers and stop watching cable news. It's no good for you. Read more. Let's talk to people. Actually get on the ground and talk to people. Don't take someone's word from it who is trying to spin a story to make it sound good in their narrative. That's what they do. They can't help it. They're biased and they can't help it. Everyone. Doesn't matter. There might be some good news sources out there. I don't know. But I don't really care because I don't watch it. Instead, talk to people who actually live lives from all different sides of every argument or every different perspective. Read books, get educated, stay inspired, listen, and that's how you get out of your little echo chambers where you're even like actively like angry to hear a different side. That's how you build a dysfunctional family, dysfunctional team, dysfunctional company, dysfunctional country, dysfunctional earth, dysfunctional anything. It's a dysfunctional. So this is how you talk to people. Be open. I'm open. If I'm wrong, even on this topic, I welcome the comments. I welcome you to reach out to me. I welcome you to come on the podcast. I welcome to hear it. That is how we move forward. And there's another thing that if you get too stuck in your team and tribe, too stuck in there, you start thinking that whoever is against this side must have malicious intent, must be out to get you, and all this stuff. And as soon as you start thinking that way, then it really is your side versus my side. I'm coming after you, you're coming after me. Let's go. And then it really doesn't matter who's right or wrong. It just matters whose side are you on. All right? You could have a really good argument, but whose side are you on? You're on my side? Oh, okay. That makes sense. You're on the other side? Get out of here. I don't care what you have to say. That is what tribal stuff does. It's not good. But instead, if you take a step back and say, look, I don't care about whose team you're on and what team you're on, even though it's a little bit human nature to try to, it's like drawing you in. It's almost like gravity is trying to push you to one side. If you can resist that and say, no, I'm an independent thinker. I don't care what side you're on. I only care about if you make a good argument and if you make a bad argument. And if you make a bad argument, that doesn't mean I don't like you. It just means I disagree with you. I can do that. I'm a person that has independent thoughts. So less side picking, because picking a side and agreeing with everything they say is obviously going to result to bad thinking. Even no matter what that side says, if you agree to it, that is bad thinking. If you're an independent thinker and you say, I don't care what side you're on. I want to hear why you think what you think. And if what you're saying makes sense, then I can hear it out and we can talk. And I actually might change the way I think. You have to be open to changing the way you think. That is why I don't know how many people I tell this, but I'm a big believer in being an independent thinker. Be an independent thinker. Almost have that as a label for yourself. Hey, what side are you on? No, I'm an independent thinker. Be an independent thinker. As soon as you feel like you're being gravitated to one side, I tell you, you're going to be favoring one side over the other for a reason you can't even explain. Don't do that. Don't pick a side. Pick rationality. I don't know if that's a word, but I just hope it is. Pick the side of rational thought. Pick the side of thinking. Pick the side of healthy conversations. Talk to people. What really helps me is I've read a book called Think and Grow Rich, and there's a part of this book, I'm trying to find it on my phone right now, where the author Napoleon Hill says he wants you to repeat some like daily, they're not, I guess you call them daily affirmations. And one of them explains it pretty well of what I'm trying to get to when I say, don't assume people have malicious intent. Go out in the world with a different type of thinking, more of, I don't have any cynicism or hate towards anyone. I just have a desire to talk to people and understand what they're saying. So if you go to read Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, he has some good daily affirmations that just help. It's a daily reset in your mind because, again, sometimes you might be gravitated towards another thing, another team, another side of thinking. Being an independent thinker and don't think everyone has malicious intent. Some people do, by the way, but those people are losers in my opinion. So here's one thing that Napoleon wants you to just reset every morning and think about. It goes, I fully realize that no wealth or position can long endure unless built upon truth and justice. Therefore, I will engage in no transaction which does not benefit all whom it affects. I will succeed by attracting to myself the forces I wish to use and the cooperation of other people. I will induce others to serve me because of my willingness to serve others. I will eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism by developing a love for all humanity because I know that a negative attitude towards others can never bring me success. I will cause others to believe in me because I will believe in them and in myself. I think that sort of gets to what I'm saying here. Instead of automatically being on a team and thinking the other side is out to get you and they have malicious intent, and then you're angry at that person no matter what they say, you're mad at them and you don't like them and you don't want to see them and I don't like them. Instead of that, it should be, hey, I know there's some strange people out there, but that's not the majority. The majority are people with good intent. I have no malice against anyone. I'm willing to hear what you have to say as long as you're going to be respectful to me. And I have certain thoughts. I have certain perspectives based on how I grew up as a person, based on my environment, based on what I've read, based on what I've heard, based on who I know. And I'm willing to think differently depending on what you have to say to me. I'll be friendly with you. I hope only good things for you, and I will help you get to wherever you need to be if I can. And I just want to hear your side of things. It's a different way to think, but what I will say is, it's even if you're not convinced right now from what I'm saying, and you say no, that side is out to get me and screw them. Even if I'm not convincing you, think selfishly. Honestly, think selfishly. If you are thinking like this, where you're so one-sided, everyone's out to get you. If you're thinking like that, I can almost guarantee you're living a more stressful life than you have to. It's you're concocting your own reality it's a fake reality of people out to get you. And then anytime you talk to someone who has a different thought, it's like you shut down or you yell at them or you can't even do it. You won't even have the conversation. No, this is off the table. That's how is that any way to live? So this is my perspective on how to talk to people. We need to be better at this. We cannot continue living so polarized where we're afraid to even talk to each other. How do you get anywhere like that? That is not a country or a place or a team or a company or a family that I would want to be a part of. That is a stressful environment. Change the way that you talk to people. We can do this one person at a time. We don't have to have the entire country do this. You can change yourself. If you're listening to this, you can change the way that you do it yourself. And the person that you talk to, if they see how you're conducting yourself and that you're not just there to convince them and you're there to just talk and have a conversation, maybe you can change that person. So it's one person at a time. Change yourself. And then maybe others will see how you're conducting yourself. You'll be less stressed. You'll be more happy. You'll be willing to talk to people. You might change your mind and be smarter because of it. You might say, hey, it's a good idea. I don't know why I didn't listen to them. If anything, do it for yourself because you are going to be less stressed. So this is how we talk to people. This is how we break the polarization. This is not at all geared towards specifically politics. It's towards anything. Anytime you have an argument, and for some reason there's polarization. That's when this happens. It does happen to have a lot more occurrence when politics gets involved in conversation, but it's relevant towards everything, not just that stuff. So, we now have a word of the day. And I heard this word yesterday in a podcast that I was listening to, and it reminded me how much I love the word, and I don't use it as much. But the word of the day is markedly. Markedly. And it means, it's an adverb, and it means to an extent which is clearly noticeable, semicolon, it significantly. So, significantly. Synonyms are distinctly, remarkably, plainly, obviously, unmistakably. Okay? And in a sentence, new diagnoses have increased markedly since 1998. Markedly. Okay, so we need to change the way we talk markedly. Does that make sense? I don't know. We need to change the way we talk to each other markedly. We need difference change. We need change in how we talk. Change in how we represent ourselves or whatever. Be independent thinkers. Be independent thinkers, not one-sided. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, don't forget, give me that thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date on more videos and podcasts like this. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for listening to the very end, and have a good rest of your day. Thank you.